You did not have to kill that child. Take him out of here now.
Now, this is one of society's darkest realities, a violation of the most fundamental trust and innocence. When adults, especially family members, harm children, they shatter not just immediate safety but a child's entire sense of security and self. Every child deserves to grow, learn, and thrive in safety. The monsters we'll be discussing today robbed these poor children of their chance at happiness. Some of them robbed them of a life. Watch with care. These cases will leave you feeling sick. Shania Nicole Davis. Shania Davis was a little girl born in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Her parents were Bradley Lockhart and Antoinette Davis. Life wasn't easy for Shania and her big brother, Carl. Their parents were going through really tough times, dealing with addiction and past trauma. When their parents split up, their dad, Brad, took care of Shania and Carl because their mom, Antoinette, was struggling with serious substance abuse. In 2009, Antoinette told Brad she was doing better and wanted another chance to be a mom. Brad agreed to let the kids live with her, where she shared a home with her sister, Brenda, and Brenda's boyfriend, Greg. But things quickly went wrong. Family members started noticing really concerning signs that Shania was being hurt. Tim Allen, a friend of Brad's, said his wife spotted what looked like cigarette burns on Shania's arms. Other relatives also saw burns and injuries on her body. Then, one morning in November, Antoinette woke up her sister and her sister's boyfriend, saying Shania, who was only 5 years old, was missing from their home. They searched the neighborhood, asking everyone if they had seen her, but no one had, except for 7-year-old Carl, who said a stranger had been in their house that night. Brenda wanted to call 911 right away when she heard Shania was gone, but Antoinette kept refusing. When Brenda talked to Carl again, he revealed something important. He recognized the stranger as someone called Mono, whose real name was Mario McNeil, a known drug user who lived in their trailer park. Finally, by the end of that day, Brenda had to pressure her sister into calling the police. 911 call transcript. Dispatcher: "Okay, ma'am, how can I help you?" Antoinette: "This morning, my daughter was not in the house. I don't know if she walked out or... I don't know what's going on, but she's not here." Dispatcher: "How old is your daughter?" Antoinette: "She's 5. Dispatcher: "5? And your door was not unlocked? That's what you're telling me." Antoinette: "No, it was not unlocked." You can hear how startled the 911 dispatcher was to learn that Shania's mother did not care to lock her house with a 5-year-old inside. In fact, everyone but Antoinette seemed more determined to find little Shania. Even her 7-year-old brother helped authorities more than their mother. Thanks to Carl identifying Mono, the detectives were able to track him to a comfort inn. They saw him on CCTV carrying a sleeping girl wrapped up in a blanket. When an Amber Alert went out for Shania, a hotel clerk who saw it on TV recognized her and called the police. They also arrested Antoinette. When questioned by police, Antoinette was hostile and claimed she just wanted to know where her daughter was. But the terrible truth came out. Antoinette had handed Shania over to Mono to pay off a $200 drug debt. Her statements to police revealed an unthinkable lack of concern for her daughter's safety. She seemed more annoyed at the investigators than worried about Shania. Antoinette basically pimped out her kindergarten-age daughter to a monster to cover a drug debt. Her exact words to the detectives: "I gave her to him to cover $200. He was only supposed to have..." Yes, that's what she said. For her crimes, Antoinette faced serious charges, including human trafficking, kidnapping, and second-degree murder. Mono was charged with first-degree murder. The search for Shania ended in heartbreak on November 16th when a police officer and their search dog found her body hidden under a log in the woods. Throughout the investigation, Mono showed no remorse for what he had done to this innocent child. In fact, he was only disappointed in his lawyer for giving out information about Shania's location. Jail records show that McNeil complained his lawyer should not have told police where to find the girl, saying it hurt his case. Shania's father spoke at Mono's sentencing. "I can never get Shania back. You have taken that from me. I think about those last seconds. And you were the last thing my daughter got to look at. It's a horrible thought that will haunt him forever, that McNeil's monstrous smirk was Shania's last memory and that she died alone and terrified, knowing her own mother didn't love her enough to protect her." Judge's verdict. The jury has returned as its recommendation as to the defendant, Mario McNeil, that he be sentenced to death. You did not have to kill that child. Take him out of here. Lily Peters. I want to take your picture. Can you smile? Lily Peters had a special bond with her mom, Jennifer Early. They were super close and always had fun together. Lily's bright smile around her mom said it all. After her parents split up, Lily split time between their homes in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, and handled it well. On April 24, 2022, while staying at her dad's, Lily went for a bike ride in the neighborhood. She was supposed to be back in a couple of hours. At 10 years old, she'd proven herself responsible enough to follow the rules. But by 9 p.m., Alex was worried. No one had seen Lily for 6 hours. She was last spotted leaving her aunt's house on North Grove Street, just blocks from home. When Alex called the police to report Lily missing, they couldn't issue an Amber Alert. The rules required that a child be under 17, in clear danger, and that there be information about a suspect or their vehicle. This meant precious time was lost. In cases where children go missing, every minute counts. When it became clear police action would be delayed, Alex gathered Jennifer and community members to search through the night. The whole town of Chippewa Falls joined in, calling Lily's name and looking for any sign of her. That night, Alex made a devastating discovery: Lily's bike, in a ravine near the cemetery. By morning, police joined in with search dogs and drones. At 9 a.m. on April 25, 12 hours after she was reported missing, they found Lily in the woods near her home and her aunt's house. Her mother's heartbreaking cries could be heard when they made the discovery. The medical examination revealed Lily had been attacked, assaulted, and robbed of her life. She was hardly recognizable. This was a frenzied attack, and an entire community was now terrified. Anyone could be next. For the last couple of days, since Lily first went missing and then her body was found in the woods, there was certainly a sense of fear and unease in this town. Without answers, people were on edge. But now, they were getting some answers, with the arrest of a juvenile suspect last night. One of the kids in this tightly knit community wrote on Reddit shortly after. "What's scary is, I was playing Pokemon Go in the park that day, walking along that very same trail. My stomach turns when I think that I saw that girl in a pink-purple hoodie on her bike with another kid on my way out. I have a suspicion that it could be another kid that did it. You'd think there's no way a kid could have done this." Lily looked as though she'd been attacked by a pack of rabid dogs. Sadly, this kid was right. On April 26th, people noticed police stationed outside Lily's aunt's house for hours. They were likely piecing together what had happened since Lily was last seen leaving there on her bike with her cousin, Carson. Later that day came shocking news. Police arrested 14-year-old Carson on very serious charges, including first-degree intentional homicide. The community was stunned to learn that the person responsible was not only a child himself, but Lily's own cousin, someone she had grown up playing with. This evening, we arrested a juvenile suspect in this case. The suspect was not a stranger. The suspect was known to the victim. Carson was just an 8th-grade student. The news that such a young person could be involved in such a terrible crime against a family member shocked the entire country. As investigators dug deeper into Carson's background, they uncovered concerning details about his life. Because of the severity of the charges, Carson's case went directly to adult court rather than juvenile court. This meant he could face much more serious consequences. In adult court, the maximum sentence could be life in prison. In contrast, if his case had gone to juvenile court, he might have been sent to a youth facility or treatment center until turning 18. If convicted in adult court, which is where this case currently is, Carson faces multiple life sentences. When police interviewed Carson and his aunt on April 26th, he immediately admitted to what he had done to Lily. His detailed confession left investigators in shock. The teen told police his intention was to assault and kill 10-year-old Lily, sharing these disturbing details. When he got off the trail, he punched the victim in the stomach, knocked her to the ground, strangled her, hit her with a stick before harming her to the point of death, before he then assaulted her. Carson also told the court at his first hearing that he'd wanted to assault and kill Lily for quite some time. That day, he invited her on a bike ride with this intent. No one could understand why this boy had such dark thoughts. If you asked his family, they'd say they never noticed any red flags. And yet, after killing his cousin and leaving her in the woods like garbage, he ran home, threw his clothes in the laundry, and made casual conversation with his mom as if nothing had happened. One can only wonder if there really weren't any red flags about this boy before all this. As you might have guessed, there were loads. As investigators looked into Carson's past, they uncovered a troubled family history. Carson had previously made threats to Lily, though her parents weren't aware of this. His own childhood was marked by exposure to crime and drugs, over and over again. Carson's parents separated when he was 2. His mother, Lori, who was Lily's aunt, struggled with substance use and legal issues. His father, Adam, had an even more troubling background. In 2016, he was arrested and later imprisoned for serious crimes involving inappropriate content related to minors. Despite court orders preventing unsupervised contact, Adam maintained communication with Carson through emails and phone calls. Though Lori tried to keep Carson away from Adam's influence, Carson remained attached to his father and saw him as a role model. Carson's home life was unstable. His grandmother reported that he seemed unhappy in his mother's care. Lori continued to date convicted felons who praised serial killers on their Facebook pages and normalized violence at home. If anything, the more the detectives looked into Carson's family, the more they understood why he turned out the way he did. Still, that does nothing to alleviate the pain felt by Lily's family. Carson still had to pay for his unspeakable crime. In 2024, it was announced that Carson would be tried in adult court. His trial is yet to happen, but people expect him to spend the rest of his life behind bars. Zaria Burgess. Our last case is somehow even more sickening than the last two because, in this story, Zaria was violated by her own father. The person who was supposed to protect her ended up betraying her in the worst way possible. Especially when you're a parent, and you have children of your own, seeing just the evil that people are capable of, it's just not normal. In August 2018, 15-year-old Zaria Burgess was preparing for her sophomore year of high school. When her mom, Acacia, had church and dance team commitments that weekend, she arranged for Zaria to stay with her dad, Joshua, as they had done for years before. Before going to her dad's, Zaria tried to make other plans. She texted a friend about staying over Saturday night, but her friend couldn't host her. She asked her mom if she could be picked up that evening instead, but Acacia, who had late performances, said she'd collect her Sunday afternoon. Tragically, that pickup would never happen. Acacia would never see her daughter alive again. On August 19th, Joshua Burgess walked into a Charlotte police department and made a confession. When the dispatcher couldn't find any warrants for his name, he explained why he was there. He had unalived his daughter. And that's to put it mildly. Officers went to Joshua's address on Hampton Meadows Road in Charlotte, North Carolina. What they discovered inside was deeply disturbing. Zaria had been violently harmed in multiple ways we can't even begin to describe here. The crime scene was so traumatic that the responding officers would later say it was the most difficult moment of their careers. The crime scene looked straight out of Hannibal. She had been displayed for the authorities in a way so sickening that the officers could plainly see she had been slain by her primary caregiver. Her body was also covered in marks, and her neck was barely hanging on. Now, remember how Zaria had tried hard to avoid an overnight stay at her father's? She knew something. She feared him. And yet, the world conspired against her that day. This is just a case where it's pure evil. She died in the worst way imaginable, at the hands of someone who swore he loved her. Our top story: new details in a heartbreaking crime. A 15-year-old girl is dead, and police say her father confessed to killing her. Joshua Lee Burgess was dragged to the smallest cell available while everyone else tried hard to make sense of this unspeakable tragedy. Joshua and Acacia became parents very young. She was just 16 when Zaria was born in December 2003. Though they split up while still teenagers, they maintained a custody arrangement where Zaria spent weekends with her father, Joshua. On the surface, Joshua seemed like a loving dad. He called Zaria his mini-me on social media and posted about enjoying time with her. Her classmates even envied their apparently close relationship. However, there were concerning signs beneath this facade. Joshua struggled with addiction and had a criminal record, including felony burglary. He had difficulty maintaining steady employment, with his longest job being a truck driver. During one trucking trip, Zaria told friends her father had threatened to leave her on the side of the road. During the trial, the evidence presented was so disturbing that many in the courtroom were brought to tears. Joshua showed no emotion throughout the proceedings. The jury took just 2 hours to reach their verdict. Joshua Burgess was found guilty on all counts and received the death sentence plus 76 years, the first death sentence in North Carolina since 2006. The severity of the sentence reflected the extreme nature of his crimes. Joshua readily admitted what had transpired. He confessed to his crime that day and again in the courtroom. But when asked about his motive, he gave different explanations to investigators. One theory suggested racial prejudice played a role, as Zaria had told friends she never felt accepted by her father's family due to their bigoted views. Joshua was part of white supremacist groups on social media. With his violent past and bigoted beliefs, this could explain, at least in his disturbing world, his worst actions. Another theory is that Joshua hated his ex-wife so much that he took their daughter to get back at her. One family friend spoke about seeing Joshua the day before the attack. According to her, he looked at his rock bottom. His addiction had reached a whole new level. He had wild eyes, an unkempt beard, and thinning hair. And in this state, Joshua acted on his worst impulses. According to this family friend, Joshua was obsessed with his daughter. He had confessed that he was terrified at the thought of Zaria dating. He did not want her dating anyone else, but him. When you look at this old post from his Facebook page, it sort of makes sense in the worst way. Oh, the joy of having a teenage daughter. I'm waiting for her to get her hair done. Would not trade this time for anything. Any dad should love spending time with his daughter. But knowing what we now know about Joshua Burgess, this post is really sickening. Joshua terrorized his daughter for 22 hours before finally taking her life. And according to him, it was all planned, from luring her with breakfast to turning himself in afterward. He also said that weekend was the best weekend of his life. He said that in court, with the jury in tears. Joshua Burgess was thus sentenced to death, with the DA commenting, "This was truly an especially heinous, atrocious, and cruel killing of an innocent child. This case was emotionally taxing for everyone involved. We continue to grieve with and pray for Zaria's mother. These monsters received harsh sentences for their crimes, but they do very little for their victims' grieving families. These children deserved better. No one deserves to go in such a way, let alone someone with their whole life ahead of them. It's terrifying to think there are such monsters out there. If we can do one thing to honor those they took away, it's keeping our loved ones safe." Thanks for watching. You guys let me know your thoughts on these tragic cases down in the comments section. Before you go, make sure you like and subscribe. Catch you soon.